Hi everyone. Did you know that this fabric comes from Shannon Fabrics and they call it Cuddle. Imagine, cuddly and soft as it is. Our How Tuesday, I will show you something to make out of this that you can wear. So stay tuned for How Tuesday from Lori's Country Cottage. So you'll need 1 yard or 0.9 of a meter of the Luxe Cuddle faux fur. You see I've got it turned back. The edge there is the long edge is the selvage edge. You want to put the selvages together. Okay, so I've got my 1 yard or 0.9 of a meter of my faux fur folded in half. My fold is along the top there. So here are my selvage edges, and you can leave the selvage edges on. You want to measure from your selvage edge up 15 inches. At 15 inches, you want to make a mark, and I've used my chalk aligner. The chalk aligner is a Clover product, and it has a little wheel in here. It is refillable on the end here with chalk, and you can change the color in it. I find that the red, so they call it, is one of the better colors to have because it shows on light as well as dark colors. And there's how it marks. It has a little wheel in it, and the chalk just drops down on your surface. When you're done, I find that if you've marked fabric, it's easier to get rid of the chalk mark if you need to with rubbing it with another piece of fabric rather than rubbing your hand. Seems like when you rub with your hand, it rubs it in. Another piece of fabric knocks it off. Okay, so this is marked at 15 inches. I want to mark down here about an opening of 10 inches for turning. Then I want to mark 15 inches there again. So now I want to pin this, and you want to pin a lot. When you work with this, it slides a little bit, and so you want to make sure that you've got a lot of pins in there to hold it. And I'm just tucking my fur in a little bit as I go. And if you have a walking foot, this is a good opportunity to use it because the walking foot has feed dogs or provides a feed dog from the top as well as your machine from the bottom. And so both mechanisms work together to pull your fabric through to sew. And so I'm going to continue pinning here all the way around the corner up to here. I'm going to stitch it at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'm going to back stitch here and back stitch here. Then I will repeat the same thing on the other side. I'll do a backwards L and a straight L on each side. So I'm going to take that to my machine and I'll come back and show you what's next. So I've done my stitching. I back stitched here and I stitched along at about a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and I back stitched again up here. I left about a 10 inch opening and I repeated the same thing there. Now what I want to do is I've got an opening here and an opening here. I want to take this and I want to pull it all the way through so that my edges meet. Here, I want to open up my seam, and I forgot my pins. Open up my seams and I want to pin it there. And then again, I want to pin and I'm going to sew at about a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Sew these two seams together to make this circle. Okay, so I'm going to pin this. And I'm going to pin it a lot again so it doesn't move on me. One thing I forgot to tell you, when you cut this, because you're cutting along this edge and you're cutting these little hairs off, they make quite a mess. And so what you might want to do is cut it carefully and then take it outside and shake it Or if you've got a dryer, throw it in the dryer and the dryer will clean up all that fluff. Just throw it on air fluff, no heat, and just clean up all of that fluff. So I pulled this all the way through, right sides together. You want to match your seams in the same spot, and you're going to start to sew at your seam here, a 1/2 inch seam all the way along. Now I've started to pin here just to show you that you do need to pin a lot because this will move. So you want to tuck and pin. And I've got a lot of pins in here. Tuck and pin. Tuck and pin. And when you tuck the fur inside, it won't be crawling out. And what ends up is it walks like this as you're sewing. So you want to tuck it as best you can and pin. Take your time and pin well so that it doesn't move on you and you don't have to take it out. Okay, and you're going to want to keep going all the way around to where your L seam is again, and you want to sew up to there with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. As you see that I have it pinned like crazy here, another idea just to keep it from shifting is to pin another row going the other way. As you stitch here, you take these pins out and you take these pins out once you've finished. What happens is the fabric crawls back here. So check from time to time that your fabric is not crawling to the front. If your fabric is not feeding through very well, making tiny stitches, you want to lengthen your stitch. So it's a little bit longer, it'll feed a little bit nicer. Now that I've got it stitched all the way around, I want to turn it. And so put my hand in the opening that I left at the bottom, and I pull all the pieces back through there. And so I've got a long tube with an opening at the bottom, a V. Okay, here was your 15-inch seam. It creates a little V. So I pulled the tube over my head with the V part to the bottom. So you can wear it like this, or you can turn this to the back and have a full front with a V on the back. Or if the wind comes up, you've got a hood. So thank you everyone for watching How Tuesday with Lori's Country Cottage. Stay warm.